I'm Chris.
I'm Sandy.
And this is Parenting Autism. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 147 of the Parenting Autism podcast. And we're back in the month of
March.
March.
We made it.
We're wrapping up March here, 2026. And you may hear Bryce in the background. He's playing Animal Crossing with his Auntie Sue, which they do every Sunday.
Virtually. She's in Maryland, and they do it through FaceTime.
And you also may hear background noise from the wind that we have going on here today.
It has been a windy day in South Florida.
Very windy.
Bringing in a cold front, which that means temperatures dropping from 87 to 78.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! But we'll take it.
We will take it. We'll take it.
Yeah.
All right. So
I wanted to hop on here because...
when were we on last?
February 22nd.
Oh, it's been a month.
So just a little over a month.
Wow.
So my notes are piling up. My brain is full of information.
It's time to empty the pile.
I need to empty it. So here we go.
Roger.
All right. So since we were last on here, Bryce has had a few Special Olympic competitions. He had, for equestrian, which is riding the horses, he had the regional competition, and then he just finished a state competition yesterday. So that's hot off the press. And then he had basketball area competition, which is like the first of three competitions for basketball. And that we took Michael, his best friend, to that with us. And Michael I think he really enjoyed it. And he was doing a great job cheering for Bryce. And we really had a good time. So
you can check out Michael and Bryce on our YouTube channel, Exploring the AC Marriott, downtown Orlando.
That is correct.
Our YouTube is at Parenting Autism Show.
Yes, we have lots of videos on there, and that is definitely the best way to keep up with us in between podcast episodes.
For sure.
For sure.
We've gained a lot of subscribers on there in the past 2 to 3 months. I mean, it's taking off, so we're excited about it.
Yeah, and it's easy for me to do some recordings and then post those up onto the YouTube channel, and it just kind of shows the highlights that are going on around here as far as activities go, and then that way we can come on here and just talk about more of the details.
Yeah, it's good, clean content, family friendly.
Yes, which I will say that Bryce has, he's 12 and a half, and he can be a little mischievous or cheeky at times, and he thinks sometimes that if he does something that we would, in air quotes, say is sneaky, that's going to be funny and that he would get more viewers. And we're really trying to help him understand that you can't do that. And that a lot of the videos that he watches where people are being sneaky, they're not real. It's not real life. It's all staged. It's pretend. They have pretend police officers arresting these characters, and Bryce has a hard time understanding the truth and what is reality from fiction. And so, if he presses a bell in the elevator, he might think that that's funny, but in the reality of things, we could get in trouble for that. And so I think he's really starting to understand that, and it's important for him to understand that, but this is really part of him learning about life and how to live out in the real world and what is acceptable to do and what is not acceptable to do. And, that's kind of where we are. We're trying to get out more. And when we're getting out more, there's more opportunities for Bryce to learn, for Bryce to get reprimanded or, educated on things, and opportunities for him to learn how to process his emotions. And we've had a lot of that in the past month or two. Would you agree with that?
Yes, he's definitely 12 years old, and he is going into the high energy stage.
It has leveled up.
Yeah.
So, and that's not a bad thing, except that sometimes he doesn't even realize how loud his voice is. He doesn't realize that he doesn't have like a lot of awareness of around him, like his spacing around him, and if he's so close to bumping into somebody. And Bryce is just a really happy, joyful kid. So, he's just being happy and bouncing around, but he's got to just be able to have more awareness that there are other people around him, So,
yeah, we're struggling with the inside voice versus outside voice, and he's definitely using the full volume outside voice during indoor environments, and it's loud.
It is, and he doesn't realize it. And if you say it to him, he goes, "This is my inside voice. My outside voice." He doesn't get it, but we're trying to teach him, and it's all part of it. And I think about this, and we really haven't gone out too much because of my illness and everything. And so lately, we've just had all of these activities for his Special Olympics, which has taken us away from the home a lot more, especially this month. It was like 3 out of 4 weekends we've been gone. So, that's it. We go out, and there's, as I said, new opportunities and things to learn. But there's also a lot of humor that comes with that. And I have made some notes, but before I go into all the humor stuff, I will say that Bryce has been enjoying what we would call a spring break, but it's been extended because he had finished his 6th grade classes, and so we gave him a few weeks off to enjoy that. And last week we started placement testing for him, which we will finish this coming week, and then that's going to help us know where he's at in his core his core subjects, so that we can plan as we roll into the 7th grade criteria if there's anything else we need to improve upon. Like, I don't think he's at 7th grade reading level, but what else can we do to help him at this point? And that's the purpose of this testing, is just kind of help us with all of that.
Yeah, I agree. I had read about this placement test. I think it's called the MAP test or something. It's from Homeschool Boss or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I saw a lot of parents talking about it as a good thing to do. So we did science last week, and so we got the score, and now we just have to interpret the score and see.
Yeah, and I want to give Bryce major props because he was able to sit there and work on that testing for 2.5 hours consecutively. Because it tells us the amount of time at the end.
40 or 50 questions.
45 questions was where it ended. And he did not take any breaks. And at one point, I said, Bryce, you can take a break if you want to and if you need to. He's like, no, I want to finish this. And he was able to, he takes his time, which is great. He doesn't rush through things. He reasons everything out loud, which he normally does in any of his testing. But that's what helps him process the information. And the biggest thing for me was that he had the ability to sit there and remain focused on that for 2.5 hours, which is huge, huge for him. Not because of the autism as much as it is the ADHD, the ability to sit there and focus on things, because he needs breaks so frequently. So I told him, Bryce, that is such a big accomplishment for you that you don't even realize, because that's what's going to help prepare you to do a job in the future, because you won't be able to take a break from a job every 15 minutes. You're going to have to work a few hours and then take a break, So this is helping you build that discipline and your confidence now that you can do it. And, those are just all really good things.
Yeah, I also want to punch in about these Green Chef meals that we're getting. So, past couple of weeks, he gives us some pushback on some of the meals because they have a lot of vegetables and tastes that he's not familiar with, but he's trying them and he's eating them with no real resistance.
I agree.
But we said, well, how about you pick the meals?
Right, because he was having anxiety.
Yeah, exactly.
What's for the meal? What's for dinner?
What's going to be
What's
the
for
next
dinner?
meal, right? So we said, okay, here's the deal. You go on, you pick the next meals for the next week. So he did that, and he was a little more receptive to what we were eating because he picked out the meals. And then the last meal, I had him prepare with me.
Yes.
And he was so into that, and I didn't think he would be, but he really got into it. He used the big chef knife in the kitchen, so he was excited about that. Oh, I use a chef knife. He says, Daddy, we ought to take this camping, to kill any bear that we see. I'm like, okay, buddy.
Here's a visual.
Yeah, and but he did enjoy helping prepare the meal, and I think, was that one of his favorite meals?
He gave it a 5 out of 5, and I think that was because he helped prepare it. And I do also think that by him having these meals 2 to 3 times a week, his taste buds are shifting, and his brain is accepting these different foods now.
Yeah.
And, those are big victories.
Yeah, if you're new to our program and haven't heard this before, we've always had the 1 bite rule with Bryce. So when we make something new and he doesn't want to eat it, we tell him, well, you have to take 1 bite. And if you don't like it after 1 bite, you don't have to eat any more of it. But I would say that 9 times out of 10 or 19 out of 20 times he eats it.
I want to say there's only 1 time that he didn't eat it all.
Yeah. So, just from us urging him to take that 1 bite, we have accomplished a lot with his palate. And
for sure.
He's now able to eat foods that are mixed together, whereas before he was very strict at separating everything on his plate. So now if items are mixed together, like, rice and chicken and mushrooms and whatever, he'll eat it.
That's true. I have noticed that in the past week or 2 that his anxiety has been coming up a little bit more about foods and if they have peanuts in it. And it's because April 1st will mark the 1-year anniversary of when he ended up in the ER by ambulance because of an unexpected peanut allergy when we were up in Boston. So I think that date is just there for him. And so he's been more worried about foods having peanuts in them, even when they're foods like chicken that he knows doesn't have peanuts in it. So I'm trying to really prevent that from regressing to the extent that it did this time last year, because it took us almost a month to get him to go back to eating foods that he knows is safe.
I think he lost weight.
He did, and he's gained that back and more, which is great. And it really has not been too much of an issue, but I can see that light coming up again. Yeah. And so, it's important that we keep having him do these foods that he knows is safe, where he can see the ingredients, where he knows it's a 1 ingredient food. Yeah. Or if it's a meal that we're making, like with Green Chef, he can see all the things that are going into it. He can see that there's no peanuts. Yeah. It's just those kind of things for him. He just has a lot of awareness that. But I'm thankful. Like when we were at Special Olympics, that's where my mind is going. He ate a sandwich and then he was like, "Is there peanuts in this?" No, there's no peanuts in the sandwich. And he did it, right? He didn't want to have it 2 days in a row, but he was willing to eat a sub, and that's the first time he did that without complaining. Yeah. Which was great. Then they had dinner for us, and we didn't know what the meal was, but he was very worried that it might have peanuts in it.
He didn't want to go to the Special Olympics dinner.
Right.
And we had 2 other Special Olympics parents there that really encouraged him to come, because they have like a dinner and a dance. So after they encouraged him, he was open to it, because sometimes coming from somebody else, it's better than coming from the parent. And so we ended up going, and they had pasta and sauce and garlic bread, and he liked all of that.
He did.
So
And the vegetables.
yeah, and the vegetables, and he was very happy that we came. And so we didn't stay around for the dancing.
No, we were tired.
Well, I don't think he wanted to.
I don't think
anyway.
he wanted to anyway, and it had been a really long day. And we did say to him, listen, they're providing those meals for us, which is very nice of them.
Yeah.
It helps mommy and daddy too, because we don't have to, buy a meal and cook a meal for you. And so we said, if you go and eat the dinner and you try it, then you can choose where we eat dinner tomorrow night, because we knew we would still be out of town. And so that was a good enough deal for him. And then he did.
I think this has also come up too, because he's overheard me talking about his ambulance bill being paid from that time that he went.
True, because
to
we've
the
had
ER.
delays by the insurance company.
So I guess I'm supposed to tell somebody out there that the short story on that is the ambulance company, it was out of state, so there was some communication issues between the ambulance company and his insurance company. It's like, I don't know, they were speaking two different languages or something, and they couldn't get the bill paid. So, and I couldn't reach anybody at the ambulance company to help me. So after many, many attempts, I finally filed a Better Business Bureau complaint on the ambulance company, because they were not getting in touch with me. There was no live person that I could talk to. So fortunately, I've learned that if you have trouble with a company and they're not communicating with you and you're trying to get something resolved, filing a complaint with the Better Business Bureau is the way to do it. I've done it a couple of times now, and I've really made strides. And in this case, they responded with the proper person to get in touch with and their phone number. So that was very helpful in resolving this. And now we just got word that they're going to pay his ambulance bill, which was, I think, $4,000 to take him to the hospital. So in any case, somebody out there was supposed to hear that. I don't know who, but I felt led to share that quick story.
Yep. We're always happy to help.
We're learning.
Wherever we can, because we
time.
learn. Yeah, exactly. So that's, coming up on all of that. But Bryce he's been doing really well. And then with his competitions, he's done well with that as well. And we've worked really hard for many years. And if, I know all parents try to work with their kids to be good sports. And, it's important to learn in life how to take a loss, or when someone tells you no, how to recover from that, all of that. It's been a challenge with Bryce, as it would be with any child, but I will say that he is really maturing in that area to where if he doesn't get first or second or third place, he can handle it. And
it's not a meltdown anymore.
It's not a meltdown. And equine, they judge very
strict.
Very, very strict. And we knew that when we went 2 years ago. And last year he didn't get to go because, again, we were in Boston. So he was selected again this year for state. And when he did regionals, he finished second in one, and he finished first in the other, which was a big deal because it doesn't usually place that high. But we knew at state it would be a whole other level. They were bringing in professional judges.
And you can check. We have a video on that of this year on YouTube.
From the regional already, yes. I have not put anything up from state yet.
So that'll be coming in the next week or so. 2 weeks?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. So.
I don't know. But what I do know is that his first routine that I did record was called Walking Trail. And it was bigger than the one that he practiced with, him and his horse. And they put all these
It was
plants.
different, too.
So it was very different. And they had to navigate around more things.
There was no mailbox.
Yes, different
There was
obstacles. So there were 5 obstacles, and they were different than what
Yeah.
Bryce had practiced, or that importantly, his horse, little boy, had also not practiced. So he did great. I mean, from what we could see, and even from what his coaches said, that he did great. And so there were 6 people in his group. And when they finally called him to line up for his placement, he was in 6th. So he did the math quickly and knew that he came in last in his group. But I had prepped him, you're probably not going to get first. This is hard. This is only your 2nd time ever competing in state. It's okay. If you get a ribbon and not a medal, it's okay. We prepped him for all of that. But I know it was still disappointing for him because he heard us all saying after he got done, you did awesome, dude, because he did. He watched other people not be able to complete all of the obstacles, and he did. So, he couldn't understand why. We didn't understand why. It's not our place to question it or judge it, but we are there to accept it. And so he kept a brave face. I reminded him of what the Olympic motto is about being brave in the attempt, even if you don't get first. And, he handled it so well, but I knew that he was just trying to not cry. And then he told me that he didn't want me to show anybody his ribbon because he was embarrassed because he thought people would make fun of him. And I said, oh, honey, nobody's going to make fun of you for this. For you to even come here to state and ride that horse so bravely and do all your obstacles, believe me, I couldn't even do it. You've done things that other people couldn't do, and they won't make fun of you. So I just tried to give him that reassurance. Then he said, well, I was last in my group, and I did my best. I could have done my worst and still got the same score. And I said, well, that's true, because he's smart.
He's smart.
So I said, that is true, but you don't know what you would have gotten if you had done worse. We don't know that, and you never know. So you always want to do your best. So when you have your next one, because he had one more competition to do, I said, when you do your next one, you still want to do your best because you just don't know where you'll finish, okay? And you always want to know that you've done your best. So when he did his next one, he did do his best. And this time there were 5. And when they were announcing the winners, we were just like, please don't let him be last. Just please don't let him be last. So, and it looked like he did good, but again, we don't know. And so when they said somebody else's name to be last, you and I both were like, oh, good, he's not last. So then they named the 4th person in 4th place, and we're like, oh, he's going to medal because it wasn't his name. So we thought, well, he's going to maybe get the bronze, right? Then they named the 3rd person. We're like, oh, he's going to get 1st or 2nd. Mm-hmm. And then they named somebody else for 2nd, and then Bryce Coulter was named as 1st. Yeah. And we were so happy for him.
So
oh, my goodness.
Excited.
And in this one, they actually walk over with the medal while you're still on the horse and put it around your neck. So he thought that was the neatest thing as well. Yeah. And so
he's like, I got my medal while I was on the horse.
Yeah. That's his first gold medal in equestrian. So it was so big. And we applauded him for his good attitude. He was cheering on his teammates, the fellow athletes, and saying, you've got this. You do a great job. You don't give up, And one of the boys' moms said, Bryce, you should get a medal for being the best encourager in this whole competition, because that's how he was. And we were just really proud of him, the whole way around. So hopefully, that continues to carry on, but it was really, really good. And we were happy about that. What else I had on my notes? There were a couple things that I received from people who reach out to us through our email and from our podcast. And one thing was a link that somebody put together for traveling. If you have family members with special needs. And there were a lot of good tips in that. And this person lives in the Midwest, so they had some stuff that kind of was if you're traveling from, the Illinois area. But they had lots of good tips in there. So what I'm going to do is just copy and paste that in our show notes. And so if you're going to be traveling anytime soon and you want to just grab that link and check it out, I think it's a great resource. And so I want to provide that for you. And then secondly, I can't provide you this resource, but I can get you a link to it. But there was a parent who wrote a parenting journal, and I printed some pages out because they sent it to me to see. And boy, do I wish I had this when Bryce was younger, when he was in ABA and we were trying to document everything. It is such a great visual tool. And I really think that as Bryce continues to go through puberty and changes keep a-coming, this may be something else that we will need to go back and use as a tool again when we hit a rough patch. But I will just tell you what it says on here, and then again, I'll put the link in the show notes so you can check it out. One thing on here is the sleep quality, because we know that sometimes you don't get enough sleep, especially in those younger years. And then just depending on your child and how often they sleep. But, you'll rate your sleep quality from 1 to 10. And then there's a mood check-in for your child, and then a mood check-in for the parent. And then there's behaviors that are observed, with meltdowns having an intensity of 1 to 10. If they're sensory seeking, if they did any stimming, and if so, you would describe it. If they had any difficulty with transitions, if they had any difficulty with aggression toward themselves or towards others, if there's any elopement or wandering, or then there's a box for other. And I will tell you, there's still some of this stuff that we deal with.
Sure.
For sure. And it's got this is like day 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you really wanted to just see if there were any patterns, this would be a great tool to use. And then the next section has triggers identified, because it's so important to know what might be triggering this. Like Bryce getting anxiety about food. Well, I know one of the triggers is that April 1st is coming up. And then what you pointed out, babe, is like another trigger might be here. He's hearing this talk about the ambulance. So that's making him think about the peanut allergy. What's triggering these behaviors or these worries or, things that are coming up? If you can identify them, then it's easier to resolve them. Another one is communication wins to document. So if you have found a great way to communicate something to your child and you see a positive result from it, document it, because you may not remember that later down the road. Then it's got a space for therapy and appointments that you have on that day. Then it's got what worked today. And I think that's always good to have, because there's days you feel like you failed all the way through and nothing's working. But if you dig deep, you can find at least one thing that worked that day. Then that'll feel like, you had a win. And then what didn't work that day. And I think that's important to document as well. And then they have AI tool that you tried today. And in this resource, he put together, I think, like 20 different AI tools that can be helpful for parenting. And, these are newer to the game. We didn't have these when Bryce was little. But I'm finding that they're very interesting. And I know ChatGPT is one of them, and we have been using that tool. But he provided a lot of different AI tools. And I think that's a great resource to have in one spot. Then you can write down your plan for tomorrow. And then you can put one thing that you're grateful for from that day. And then there's a parent self-care check, that you took a 5-minute break, that you did some breathing exercises, that you asked for or you accepted somebody's help or something other. And so I know I kind of breezed through that, but I think you can rewind it and play again, or you could just go to that link and check it out. But I really want to thank them for sending me the resource. And I do think it would be great for our listeners. And whether you're a parent, whether you're a grandparent, or an aunt, an uncle, somebody who's caring for someone that may have these type of behaviors, it's just a great resource. So I wanted to put that out there. And how are we doing on time? I saw you look at your watch.
Oh, we're good.
We good? Okay. So another note that I had, it's been a while, so I got a lot to unload here. This was interesting to me, and we can talk about this briefly, but last month when we went on our date, we, Coach Shelley, we may have mentioned before, I think we gave her a shout out last time. She watches Bryce for us. And so we had said to Bryce, maybe you can go, maybe Coach Shelley will take you to Chick-fil-A, because he wanted to go. And we're like, well, maybe Coach Shelley will take you. And he's like, oh, no, I can't go with her. And we're like, why? It's okay to go with her. You're not comfortable riding with her? And he said, it's not that. He said, I don't know her. I don't know her eyes. And that's how he said it. I don't know her eyes when I'm there. And we're like, what does that mean?
He said, I could get lost. And I know what mommy and daddy look like, but I don't know what she looks like.
That's it. He says, I know your eyes and I know daddy's eyes, but I don't know Coach Shelley's eyes. And I'm afraid I could get lost. And we were like, wow, okay. So it's great that he can recognize that. And we're glad that he knows us well enough to go out in public with us, right? That he's not worried. But apparently that really made him nervous. And we've talked about him having face blindness before. And I can't help but to think that ties into that somehow.
Yeah, I mean, we sometimes have to explain to people that have met Bryce before that, he may not recognize them because he has face blindness, like they're familiar, but if he sees somebody from a distance, he could name off 5 or 6 different people he thinks it is.
Based on their hair, based on their...
The style of their hair, the color of their hair. It's mostly the hair.
It's mostly the hair. I think he identifies a lot. Yeah. So anyway, it was really interesting. It was enough that I'm like, I'm going to note that and share that because that may also happen with other, people who are on the spectrum that they have that's part of the anxiety. And especially for those who aren't able to verbalize it. Because again, Bryce can verbalize to a degree, but we still have to go crack that code.
That could still be from his stroke that he had when he was a baby because it was part of the occipital lobe.
That's true.
That's vision. So that may be from that. We don't know exactly.
Yeah, we don't.
I'm speculating.
But I just feel like that's just very interesting information there. Okay, so then some funny stuff I've made notes on from Bryce. So we were at the equine competition that was at somebody's ranch. So they didn't have regular bathrooms. They had porta potties there. So Bryce said, I'm not going to that porta potty.
Well, I said you got to go to the bathroom. You better go to the bathroom before you get on that horse because,
He did. And he goes, that porta potty is so stinky. When nature calls, I'm going to decline it.
Like declining the phone call.
Like declining a call. And I thought, that's so funny. And then I think about it with technology now.
Yes.
When a call comes in, it says accept or decline.
Yeah.
And so he says that all the time now. Well, I got to go to the bathroom. Nature's calling and I can't decline it. But that day was the first time that he said he was going to decline it. And it cracked me up.
That was funny.
It was. And then the other day, I don't think you heard this, he got annoyed by something, but I didn't know what it was. And he goes, oh, this is so over extra-terating. I'm like,
Extra-terating?
Extra-terating. I said, what does that mean? He says, this is so annoying. I said, well, okay. Well, I'm glad you interpreted that for me. And he did type it out. And then it reminded me of my dad because he used to say things were endabberating. Yeah. And we didn't really never know what endabberating meant, but you could apply it to anything. It was
his own word.
It was his own word. And so Bryce invented his own word, extra-terating. And then he said, I said something, I don't know what I was watching, but I said, for heaven's sake, get that boy the song. And Bryce goes, for heaven's sake, what's that? I said, oh, for heaven's sake. He goes, oh, I've never heard a YouTuber say that before.
Showing our age.
Oh, well, that's what I'm thinking. This is where Bryce gets all his information is from YouTubers and not the parents. So that was funny. And then a couple other things I was just going to mention was, okay, so Bryce has discovered the flab on my arms. The back of the arms where, it's flabby for some of us females. I know I'm not the only one. But, so I got flab behind my arms. And I don't know, I guess when he was in the car with me and he's in the passenger seat now. So he looks over and he's like, what's that? Then he starts flicking it. He's like, oh, I like this. It's very satisfying. I'm like, oh my gosh. So, if we're in the car and he wants to
flick your flab,
flick my flab like Jello, okay, fine. But now we've been going out in public, and he comes up and he just will start rubbing my arm and then like flicking the flab.
Oh, yeah. Now he's coming over to me. He's like, Daddy, go play with Mommy's flab. I'm like, Bryce.
So I tried to explain to him, Bryce, that can be considered rude, and not everybody wants their flab played with, okay? I'm not trying to be rude. I said, okay, well, it was funny the first couple of times, and if you really find it soothing, you can do it at the house or in the car, but don't be doing it out in public. So when I told him he couldn't do it, that's when he went over to you and said, Daddy, go get Mommy's flab. So then we were at Special Olympics with other families, and somebody was talking about what they're sending. I said, oh, well, don't worry. Bryce likes to flick my flab. So, and so they were laughing. And then he doesn't realize, what's off limits for topics because he just wants to know. And so thank God when you're with your people, that also have kids with special needs or adults with special needs, and they understand. But we were at the dinner and Bryce said, just so-and-so brush his teeth, and he's asking his mom. And she's like, he does. And then Bryce says, oh, because then why is he missing some? And so she was so kind and so patient, and she just explained that when he was younger, he actually ate Matchbox cars.
Oh, he didn't eat them.
Well,
he
chewed on them. Sorry, I don't think he ever swallowed them, but he chewed on them as if he was eating them. And it damaged his baby teeth, and it did so much damage that it damaged the roots of his permanent teeth, so that affected his teeth when they tried to come in, and they couldn't stay in, and so he has lost a lot of his teeth. And so, Bryce innocently asked, because we're always telling him, do you want to keep your teeth? If you want to keep your teeth, you need to brush your teeth. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that's where that was coming from. And he didn't say it in a rude way. He was genuinely curious, and she was so gracious about it. But I have to say that, when we are with Bryce and he is out with people, we never know what's going to come out, what he's going to ask, what he's going to do. And that's just part of parenting autism. And
yes.
And that's kind of where we're at on this journey. So
I quickly wanted to mention his orthodontist appointment. His dentist, since we're talking about teeth, suggested that we see an orthodontist because he has some crowding on his bottom teeth mostly, and he was concerned about that. And so we're like, okay, so we put it off for another 6 months.
Yeah.
And we saw the dentist again. He's like, have you seen the orthodontist? And we said no. And he's like, well, this is the time to start getting introduced to the orthodontist, getting used to seeing him and talking to him about his, what we're going to do. And we said, okay. So we went to the orthodontist, and he looked tired. We had an afternoon appointment, and he looked exhausted. And I think he had a child previous to our appointment that was, had trouble with. And so we talked to him about, he examined Bryce's mouth, and the nurse was taking the notes. And so then he asked Bryce to leave while we talked about his teeth. And so, and Bryce was like, well, when am I getting braces? I'm ready. Let's do this or whatever.
He kind of prepped himself because I've been working on it. Yeah.
And so we talked to the doctor privately, and he said, well, it's not really a big deal. I mean, he says, I have some problems with kids. When we put braces in, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of sensory, and we don't want to take them right back off once we've put them on. He says, so we have to make sure that the child is very on board with the whole process. And we might even put a few braces on at a time so that they can get used to it instead of all at once. He says, but Bryce's crowding is minor on the top and minor to moderate on the bottom. And he says, if Bryce likes his smile, if he likes his teeth, then, he doesn't really have to do anything. You can, if he likes them, then you can keep them like that, but if mom and dad want them straight, we can straighten any teeth, but it is a process, and there could be issues. If they don't brush, if they don't keep their teeth clean, there will be cavities, and then you don't want cavities while you have braces or after braces. You don't want cavities after we've gone through all this to straighten your teeth.
That's the truth.
And he's like, and then we can file them down if, they're too close. I'm like, oh my goodness. And he's like, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard. And the more he was talking about it, I'm like, you know what? I don't know that we want to go through that. And I asked him, I said, well, what if we don't do it now and he can decide later when he's an older child or a younger adult? And he's like, yeah, that's fine too. We can straighten teeth at any time. It's just the process to go through it.
It is. And so speaking for myself, because I did it as an adult, I was 26. And I was to the point that there was a specific tooth on the top that was a prominent part of my smile that it bothered me. And I thought for 18 months of my life, I can suck it up, because it was always a pride thing for me.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, no, it bothers me enough that I'm going to do it. And I have no regrets that I did it. I'm very thankful that I did. In fact, I probably had them take it off a little sooner than I should have, because I had my 10-year class reunion coming up and I wanted them off again, the pride thing.
Yeah.
And I was going to get them done again a few years later. I thought, oh, well, maybe I'll just go back and finish. And then I thought, you know what? I'm not emotionally prepared for this. Not for just a little bit of a difference. It was worth it the first time. And then I'm like, Sandy, get over it. Your smile is good enough. And it is. And I get compliments that I have a nice smile.
Yes.
It's, you get it in your head. And I think
it.
that was his point with Bryce. If Bryce is okay with it, they're just teeth.
Yeah.
And if he's okay with it, and I said, well, I'm asking from
Cavity?
his, not the cavities, but his gums, because they keep swelling on the bottom because they're crowded, and it's hard for him to floss that, and they get inflamed. And that was and that's really the primary reason why I wanted to go see the orthodontist about this, is because Bryce, his bottom gum does get inflamed. And if your gums get messed up, they won't hold your teeth in. And then you really do have a problem.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that this crowding that's going on down there, but he seemed to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And as long as we help Bryce, and he continues to floss well, and we take him every 6 months, I think we're going to be okay. And if at some point Bryce is mature enough to take care of his teeth well, and he wants to have that done, okay, we're open to it.
When did we see the dentist?
When did we? Or
the dentist?
Just in the past month.
Okay, so it's been about a month since we saw the dentist. And when the orthodontist examined Bryce, he said, your teeth, you're doing a great job flossing and brushing. Your teeth are very clean. He said, that's half the battle, is getting your kids, especially with autism, to brush properly and floss properly. He said, now, because of this crowding, there is more of a possibility for cavities, so you have to make sure that he's flossing and getting into those nooks and crannies. So.
It is, and we don't stay in there and observe him, as we've been encouraged to do, but I do make sure he goes in there twice a day to do it.
Yeah, we just got to make sure he's flossing.
So then we just but he knows that bedtime he flosses. He doesn't have to floss in the morning, because if he flosses at night and he doesn't need anything else, we're good. So I'm okay with him flossing once a day at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And he does that. And so he does that. He knows that's part of his routine.
Yeah.
So, it's just getting those disciplines. But I felt like even up to this point, he wasn't emotionally ready to even go see an orthodontist. But now he's open to the idea, and we can cross that bridge when we get there.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, I think we
cover all the bases.
I feel unloaded now. Yeah,
Okay.
we got all that out. Thank you very much. Thanks to
Awesome.
everyone who always takes time to listen to this. And I hope you do find some nuggets out of each episode that we give you and that we can put a smile on your face. And if you ever have something that you want us to talk about specifically, you can always reach out to us and let us know. I know we were doing some topics before, and we probably will do some more topics specifically in the future. But for now, we just hope that the light of the Lord shines upon you, and you have a great day.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.